Hey there YouTube, Eric7777, and today in this video we're going to take a look at the load cell replacement in the ClubSport V2 pedals. Specifically a load cell that the brake pedal uses to indicate pressure and apply the brakes. I looked around the internet and really didn't see a lot of videos of anybody actually showing the actual replacement. Plenty of people showing how to actually detect it, and I'll show you how to detect if your load cell is going bad in here just so you can see that. But then we're going to follow that up and actually swap out a load cell in these V2s here and then take a look at it after that swap. So if you can see on the screen here, we've got the actual ClubSport pedal properties window open up, and you can get to this from the game controllers and then click on the USB pedals and then open up the properties for that, and that'll open up this properties window so you can actually test it and look at each one of the pedals and see if they're working. The first one I'll press is going to be the throttle, and you can see as I smoothly press that down, it indicates the same exact smoothness that I'm applying to the pedal. And the same with the clutch pedal. If I press that down, I get a nice smooth indication there and shows that the clutch pedal is working correctly. However, when I press the brake pedal down, you'll notice that it kind of jumps around and goes on and off and just very sporadic and intermittent. I'm actually not doing anything to the brake other than holding it stationary, and it's just being very, very erratic like that. That is a clear sign that the load cell is indeed toast in these pedals. So let's jump in. We'll take a look at how to replace those, and then we'll come back and take a look and see if it made a difference. Okay, here we are in the workbench with the ClubSport V2 pedals, and we're going to swap out this load cell. A couple things you're going to need before you get started: 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. If you have a longer T-handle one or just a longer one, that's going to be handy to get one of the screws out you'll need to remove or loosen, and a shorter 2.5 millimeter, like a right angle. There's one screw that will be needed for. A pair of needle nose pliers can be very handy to remove the actual lead that goes to the circuit board in the back. That can be helpful, and maybe a straight screwdriver about this size, maybe a little longer, to help you pry up the brake pin if you need help doing that. The most important thing you're going to need is, of course, the load cell, a new load cell. And these come from Fanatec. You can order them on their website. They're as of October 2014, they were $15 each. I went ahead and ordered 2 of those while I was ordering it. Had I known it was going to take nearly 2 weeks, actually it took just over 2 weeks from the time I ordered them to the time they actually got here. Had I known that, I certainly would have ordered one before I actually needed it. So, since this is somewhat of a common problem, with these brakes or these pedals, you might want to go ahead and take the time and just order up yourself a load cell so you have it as a spare whenever you need it, instead of having to wait 2 weeks. So I ended up just ordering 2 when I got this one in, just so I had this one to put in the pedal, and then a spare one for a spare. So they're very simple. It just comes in a little bubble wrap bag there. And pull it out. This is really all that it is. It's just a little piece of stamped steel with the kind of load sensor or cell part here on the front, with a little like raised bump here for where it actually contacts the pedal, and a lead with 3 wires coming off it, and that's really all that it is. It's very simple. So let's set that aside for a minute here, and we'll go ahead and flip the pedals over and remove the old cell. It's a lot easier to get to the load cell with the pedals upside down. And you can see now that we have it upside down, the load cell is actually located on the back of the brake block here, the whole way at the top there. There's 2 screws that hold it in from each side. This one would be very difficult to get to, and fortunately we don't even need to loosen that one. All that we have to do is loosen this one a little bit, and the load cell will slide out of that slot. To make that a little bit easier, though, I found that if you actually remove or actually loosen the Allen screw that's down here that actually holds the brake pin in to the actual brake pedal, and slide that out with that loosen, you'll make it'll be a little bit easier to get the load cell out. So all I do is just loosen that, pull the pin out, set it aside, and now the brake pedal is actually free of the block. Okay. The next step you want to do before you start to take this out is actually go ahead and remove the lead. This is where the needle nose pliers can be handy to help you slide that off there. Take the lead off. There's 3 tiny little pins back here that the lead slips on, and they're very easy to bend. So take your time and get that out. Make sure you're not bending on those pins, and make sure you do take this off before you try to take the load cell off, so you're not pulling on this wire and bending those pins. If you break a pin off, then you're going to have to get a new circuit board from Fanatec, and that might take another couple weeks. Also take note when you take the wire off, the color combination of the wires. There's 3 wires on here. There's a white, a red, and a black. And as I'm looking at it, and when I slid that off, the white wire was closest to me. So whenever we put the new load cell back in, we'll just want to make sure that we have this plug oriented correctly, put it back on the pins so it's in the same orientation. Now that we have that off and we have this loose, we'll take our small Allen, and we're just going to go ahead and loosen this Allen screw up here. This is what's actually holding the load cell in. And again, you don't have to loosen it very far, just 1 or 2 half turns, and the load cell will slide out of the slot. Okay, set the load cell aside, get our new load cell, and we're going to put it in reverse order. What you do want to take your time and make sure you're lining up here is the little button here that's on the face of the load cell. You want to make sure that that is centered on the pin here, the rod that's coming up from the brake pedal, so that it's pressing right on the center of that. So that's why it's easiest to loosen this, to give yourself a little bit of room. You slide that back in, and you can kind of visually look down in there and see whenever it's centered. And when you get that centered, you just want to hold the load cell in place, and then use your small Allen wrench to go ahead and tighten that screw back up. And you're just going to snug this. You don't have to over tighten it. Just, again, 1 or 2 half turns until it's snug, and then just go a little bit further just till it stops turning and it's in there. Okay. With that in place, you can actually hook the lead back up. Again, we're going to make sure that it is oriented so the white wire is closest to me. This is where the needle nose might be a little handy to put that on. Most of the time, though, I can just slide it right on, just like I did, as long as you get it lined up right. Visually look at it, though, and make sure that you don't have any pins sticking out on either side, and you got all 3 pins in there. It is possible to get it off one and have a pin on this side or a pin out on the other side. But slide it on, make sure it's on the whole way. Take the brake pin that you took out in the first step, make sure you get it back in the same hole that you took it out of first. And this is where you might want to use the straight screwdriver to help this help you lift this block up a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of pressure on it, spring pressure. I can usually do it just by using my hand to lift this block up to get it in. Make sure that pin is centered. Use your Allen and snug that one back up. Again, you don't have to be real tight. And that's all there is to changing out the load cell. Let's head back over to the PC. We'll plug this back in and we'll see how we did. Okay, we're back to the PC now. We've got the ClubSport V2 pedals connected back up, and we've got the ClubSport pedals property page open, and we're going to run that same test that we did earlier, this time with the new load cell. So first we'll run the throttle again. You can see no change there. Smooth, just like the last time. We'll use the clutch pedal. Same thing there, just as we expect. And now the brake pedal with the new load cell. And as you can see, it's a huge difference. It's back to like it was on day one. Very smooth operation, no sporadic, no jumping around. That should take care of our problem. Hopefully you found this video useful, and make sure that you keep in mind that it can take maybe 2 weeks sometimes to get the load cell from Fanatec, so you might want to order one up just to keep one as a spare. See ya.